Welcome to Tigers Roundtable, a series of discussions over lunch with Coach Damon Stoudemire and his staff at Midgley's Public House in Stockton. We invite you to pull up a seat at the table and join the discussion about the Pacific men's basketball program and get to know more about the staff on a personal level, their relationship with each other, and their journey to return Pacific basketball to prominence.
So how's it been this off season for you guys? I mean, you just got married.
I did just
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Big time wedding.
Yeah?
The best wedding I've ever been to.
It's big.
He obviously hasn't been to a lot of weddings. But it's the best wedding he's ever been to, but it was great. A lot of friends, a lot of family out there.
Just happy it's over.
#1 recruit, got it locked down.
Nice.
So we're good. We're set
Nice.
with that now. So
Planning is crazy, isn't it? Like you don't even know. Like I was like, oh, I got engaged, and I was like, oh, it'll take care of itself. And then about like 4 months before, it's like, oh man, like there's all this stuff that comes up.
well, the good thing about Alex is a rock star. Like she planned
She's
weddings
an
for
event
a
planner.
little bit. Yeah, so she was on top of it. It was stressful, but at the same point, when it all came together, it was well worth it.
Nice. You?
Hasn't really been an off season.
Yeah?
Yeah, between recruiting and being here with our guys for summer school and having individual workouts, it's been at a go.
How about Nam?
Yeah,
Nam getting signed?
Yeah, signed in Denmark. So he's going to get to fulfill a lifelong dream of his and a lifelong goal. That was one of the things that he said when he came in here. He said, I want to play professional. And we said, well, you'll get an opportunity to if you do this, this, and this. And he handled his business and signed with an agent. And it's not easy to play professional. A lot of people think that, hey, if I do this and that, like, oh, fine, I can go overseas. It's not easy to go over there and play. And now he's accomplished the #1 thing, is signing the contract, and I think he's on a flight right now to go over there. But the next biggest thing is being able to perform, and it's a different life over there. It's not easy.
Is going to play overseas like someone going to play in a mid-major where you're basically encountering a bunch of dudes that they weren't really good enough to go play, say, in the NBA, or they have something to prove before they play professionally wherever they want to be playing? Like, is it that kind of a group of people that play overseas? Like you mentioned, it's tough to go play over there. I imagine it's a lot of guys with chips on their shoulders is all. Did you play over there?
I didn't play overseas. I got right into coaching right when I was done, but I think there's a lot of guys who play overseas that's deserving of an NBA roster, and some guys opt to stay over there, whether it's for money or other reasons. So I do think you have guys over there that have chips on their shoulder that's fighting to get to the NBA, but I also think there's guys over there that's worthy of NBA contracts. So it's a mixture, just like here in the States, But I'm extremely happy for Namdi.
Yeah,
I think
we all are, man.
I mean, since I've been in this business, he's one of the best individuals that I've had the pleasure of being around. An unbelievable kid. Everything was yes, sir, no, sir. From day one, he just was willing to learn, positive attitude, came to work every day with a worker's mentality. He's just an unbelievable kid, and I'm happy, he had this opportunity to go over there and make some money and do what he's dreamed of his whole life, because his story has not been easy,
No, I mean, he came here to Pacific. He had taken the last year off, or he hadn't played the year before. So to wind up second on the all-time blocks list and to be that presence that I don't think any of you guys, if you were being honest, envisioned him doing what he was going to do before the season started, right? I mean,
and he started playing late. He started playing,
senior in high school? Yeah, he didn't play going through high school. He really didn't play, and then he got cut from a lot of his high school teams and did a prep year, and didn't get a lot of playing time there, and then spent 2 years at Western Wyoming Junior College, and God bless his soul, in Rock Springs, Wyoming. It's not easy to live anywhere in Wyoming.
Easy.
No, it's not easy to live anywhere in Wyoming. We both know that from experience here. But Rock Springs is, the rock down there. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But
worse than Laramie?
Come on, man.
It's a tough thing.
Laramie, Wyoming. It's called Laradise. Not
Laradise.
It's called Laradise.
I wouldn't know, man. They wouldn't even let us. Stoudemire wouldn't even let us stay up there last year when we went to play. We stayed where? Fort Collins, right?
Fort Collins, yeah.
I never got a taste of Laradise.
I mean,
it's probably for the best.
Hopefully, one day you're fortunate enough to get a taste of that. You had to stay where our stepbrothers, the bottom feeder.
Colorado State.
That's where they play. But,
yeah.
Laramie is a beautiful place, and it's
scenically it looked beautiful. Like it's like Old West, like kind of go. We got to drive. I got to see the drive from Fort Collins to Laramie, and I mean it was like
it was paradise.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but it was like, if you're in the
Depends on
west
what your
scenery.
perspective is.
Yeah, it's a retirement location.
I enjoyed seeing
Depends
it
on
for a
what your
few hours.
perspective
I
is.
wouldn't have minded one night in Laramie. That's all I'm saying, just to see what it's all about.
Just 24 hours, huh?
But we're done with that home and home, right? We could talk about the schedule a little bit. I mean, so there's no more Wyoming. Obviously, it was a home and home, but I thought it was a really interesting slate of games, and I know LP is the guy that does the schedule, so he would be the guy to really speak to it. I think it's a really good schedule, in terms of like there's not the sexy opponent of like a UCLA or a guarantee type game, but that being said, it's pretty neat to not have to go play that game this year, to play a game where you might have to go and like Arizona State last year was tough, man. And you guys didn't know they were going to be like number 2 in the country at the time we were playing them. But, looking at the schedule this year, yeah, there's not maybe the name, but I think a lot of winnable games and a lot of very competitive games without taking a money game.
When you say there's not a sexy opponent, you also have to figure in that Nevada's probably going to be a top 5 opponent. And I understand that traditionally they're not going to be who they are, but they did go to a Sweet 16, I believe, last year, maybe even an Elite 8. I don't know. I know they had those 2 miracle games where they came back and they got 3 guys that tested NBA waters, so they're going to be darn good, and we're going up there. And thankfully, that's the last game on a series with them. So our series with Nevada, unless the contract gets renewed, will be done. But scheduling is always an interesting thing, and I know Coach Luster can talk about it a little bit too, but it's not an easy thing at the mid-major level, especially for a school like Pacific that we are up and coming, and we do have a reputation, and coaches call each other and they say, hey, who would you rather play? Would you rather play X or would you rather play Z? And not a lot of teams are saying, hey, I would play Pacific right now, just from what we did last year and what we brought in and what we're trying to do here as a staff and as a program. So there's some teams that they can get great home games. They can get a lot of home games because they have $350,000 to buy games.
Right.
We don't have that luxury. And if you look at all the traditional stats within scheduling college basketball, over the course of the history of college basketball, home teams win 70% of their games.
Yeah.
We have a team in our conference that's won 92% of their games since the McCarthy Center has opened up. So you're always looking for home games, but it doesn't come easy because if you don't have the money to buy the team, you will eventually have to return that game to them. So you schedule a home and home series and say, all right, we're willing to come to you guys if you're willing to come to us the next year, or you do it the same year. So it's very much so like a jigsaw puzzle of putting together a schedule. It's not easy, and we would love to say, hey, why don't you come here and play? But not a lot of teams want to come to Stockton because they know the Spanos Center is a difficult place to play, and not a lot of teams come out of there with victories.
I didn't mean to imply like there aren't great opponents on the schedule, but I mean like Nevada's a team we see every year, and this year they happen to be maybe preseason top 5. I mean, Boise State's on the UNLV. Like there's teams, but talking about like of the 5 major conferences, like there are none of the 5 majors on there, which I thought was interesting. It's the first time in a while that's not been the case. I just thought it was interesting.
I can see you. I can see where you're coming from as far as it's not those marquee teams, that marquee opponent like a UCLA or Stanford last year, but Nevada's going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
And Caleb Martin is preseason player of the year in that league, and he's an NBA guy, and his brother is also a borderline NBA guy with Caroline. And the one thing about this schedule this year, we play 5 Mountain West teams, and that's. I don't think there's another team in WCC that's playing 5 Mountain West teams, and I think this year we have the roster where I think we're up to the challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these guys respond to this roster that we have, because I think it is a challenging roster.
I mean, at UNLV, so now the next 2 years, right? That UNLV was a 2-for-1, which kind of speaks to your point about getting UNLV to get back to the Spanos Center last year. I mean, it kind of had to be a 2-for-1 type situation.
Yeah, no, and I think our guys are, at the end of the day, we're trying to get this program back to where it's been. And you talk to fans around Stockton and graduates and alum, and they talk about the glory days. You know, there's been a lot of success in this program, and we're trying to build back to that place. Mm-hmm. And it takes slow and steady steps, and I think we're on the right path. And this schedule this year, we tried to set it up so, you know, we can go out there and we can win a lot of games. We can go into conference with a lot of confidence, because the conference will be very difficult this year. And that's not discrediting any of the teams on our schedule, because we don't think we can walk into any of our games and say, oh, this is a guaranteed win. We have to show up every night and give our best effort out there. And if we don't, we can very well lose a lot of games. But at the same point, we feel as if our guys have taken a lot of steps in maturity. And we have guys that returning that understand what we expect, and bringing the guys in that we did, we also feel like they've had a great summer and they know what to expect going in to, you know, our preseason training.
Like, I feel like the schedule is perfect for where the roster is right now. Like, just from looking at it from the outside, like, I feel like the schedule is here, the roster is here. It's a pretty good match, I would say. It's not too aggressive, but there are some tough games on there, and games that'll be barometer games, I guess, to see where this team is at. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know that it's never easy playing a road game in college basketball, so you'll see some of those. We got a lot of road games in November, so our guys are going to be battle tested from the start. And then in December, we'll get some home games, but those aren't easy home games. And so you got to take care of business.
We got Chef Michael Midgley going to bring us
Yo, what's happening, fellas?
Ridiculous burger here, man.
I got this burger just for you. This is our SJM burger. Made it for San Joaquin Magazine, made the cover, dude. So you got barrel smoked prime rib, bacon, half pound Angus patty, surf Angus beef, onion strings, pepper jack cheese, lettuce, pickle, tomato, crispy strings, horsey sauce, Bruno's peppers. I mean,
so people actually come in and they'll have this whole entire
yeah, then they go to work. I don't know how they nap.
they're done after that, man.
Yeah, you're in a coma.
Did you come up with this on Top Chef or what?
No, I came up with it for the San Joaquin Magazine.
Okay.
And they put it on the cover. I was pretty proud.
Man, it looks pretty.
I feel like this would be my lunch for an entire week, not just
you know what? It's like people come in here kind of like a food challenge type thing, and they crush it. They get excited, man.
Have
one of those things, like, it's an emotional experience for people. They take pictures of it.
Absolutely.
It's definitely intimidating.
Have you thought about bringing recruits in for this thing or what?
Well,
I mean, this could lock them
we
in.
do that before an on-campus evaluation, because I don't think they're doing much on the court after.
It'll be after the season.
Oh my gosh, man!
That's a monster.
How you guys doing this summer here?
Yeah, business is booming, and it's just been a great partnership with UOP, honestly, and UOP athletics. I mean, the month of May, you know, you guys just bringing graduations in here all the time, and students and their families. So, man, it's great to be here with you guys, and just, you know, Midgley's all about giving back to the community and trying to, like, team up with, you know, great organizations you guys are.
I mean, I've been in Stockton for 13 years, and like this location at Lincoln Center has always been like the prime location. But did you even envision it would be this good
you know,
when you came here a couple of years ago? Because like especially the Brickwalk area has just been like a whole new element.
I mean, I knew Lincoln Center was the place to be, but Phil Johnson, the president of the center, Pat Dobson, I mean, those guys believed in me and had a vision for this place. Thought I'd be successful, and the Brickwalk has come to life. So I think we went best patio dining. I think was second place behind Garlic Brothers every year, you know, because they got the Delta. But
right. But you got this.
Yeah, the Brickwalk is.
But you got this
awesome.
thing. They don't
yeah,
got
we got
this
this.
thing. You got the San Joaquin burger.
Yeah,
right
I got the celebrity chef, you know, Mike Midgley himself. Yeah.
How was that for? I mean, you did Top Chef. You know,
changed my life, man. That's why I'm sitting here right now. Believe you me, man. I got all the juice out of that one. Come on, man. And so I won the competition. I got rewarded with a penthouse in South Beach Food and Wine Show in Miami.
That's awesome.
And I ran into Anthony Bourdain out there, and I met him on Top Chef. I cooked for him for Thanksgiving, and then he brought me up on stage and tried to pitch me getting my own show. He thought I was hilarious. I didn't know if I should be offended or laugh. He said I was like, he thought I was the love child of Betty Crocker and Charlie Manson. Yeah,
I feel like where the confusion.
I feel like in your
get away with words. You know?
I feel like in your niche that should make you laugh.
Yeah,
or it should, it'd be a compliment.
Man. Charlie's crazy though, you know. Betty
Most
Crocker's
are crazy, right?
Yeah,
like there's a little edge.
Yeah. Anyways, it was a good time, and
it's awesome, man.
yeah, now I'm here.
What was the process like to become on Top Shelf? Like, what was that process
So
to get on the show?
yeah, so I was a cook at Wine and Roses, and all these waitresses were talking about the show they're watching, the new show on Bravo, Top Chef. I go home, ask my wife, because I work nights. She's watching that stuff by herself. She's like, "Oh yeah, season 1." So I watch a couple episodes, and of course I'm dogging it, talking trash. She's like, "Well, why don't you do it, hot shot?" I look it up on the internet and see what they're doing a casting call. Show's not getting picked up another season, She's like, "Oh, smart guy, they're going to be in San Francisco this weekend doing auditions." I'm like, "Oh man, we just moved from there actually." And so yeah, man, I went back to the Tenderloin, hung out in the old hood, and where I went to culinary school. And basically, it was like a personality screening, first meeting. And you have 3 seconds to get their attention, and I go in there. I'm like the third guy. I think it's gonna be like American Idol, so I get there like 6 in the morning. It's like sat there till 10. They go, "Mike, Midgley, come on in." He's like, casting producers are sitting right there, and I got like a 30-page application. It took like 4 days to fill out with like, "Here's my application." They go, "Oh, we don't." I said, "Man, you better look at me when I'm talking to you, fool." And I smacked him with it. He goes, "You talk to everybody like that?" He goes, "You coming back tomorrow."
Wait, you smacked him?
Yeah, I threw my application right beside his face, man.
So that's the key to getting it.
Hey, I said, "You look at me when you're talking to me." Took me 3 days. And, he goes, "I'm going to talk to you tomorrow because you made it to the next level." I knew I had 3 seconds and I nailed it.
That's awesome.
So the next one, they talked to me about food. It was like an hour, and then they sent me to LA. That was another process. But yeah, no, that was pretty much it, man. They cast me as like a dark horse.
The next time Damon Stoudemire has an opening on his staff, if somebody slaps him with a resume,
Hey,
we come in here. We
Hey,
know where
man.
they got it from.
Better be able to throw some hoops off if you're going to hit him with the resume upside the head,
I'm not going to be the dude.
I knew I could cook, Oh, Stoudemire comes in here, man. He likes that salmon, man.
Yeah, he loves the salmon.
Always.
So,
I love cooking for you guys,
Well
man.
done, Samuel.
Thank
Well
you,
done.
Thanks you guys for coming out and
Appreciate
including
it,
me in
man.
your show, man. I appreciate it.
thanks for
Let me
having
go
us
cook
out.
the rest of your guys'
Appreciate
lunch.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Michael.
sir.
All right, man.
Appreciate
Enjoy.
Yes, sir.
Will do.
She's out.
I mean, you have, Jaleel coming back, Birdie coming back. I mean, I'm just, those are the two guys that jump off the page for me. Lafayette, who couldn't really see the end of last season because of an injury. Those 3 guys kind of make up the nucleus of returning guys. I mean, tell me a little bit about the makeup of the team as we're starting to work out a little more heavily now moving to the season.
I think those 3 guys are definitely guys that you think of right away with this team, along with Anthony Towns. I think those 3 guys have the most equity, put in the most sweat equity as far as this program up until this point. I think Jaleel Tripp being an all-conference type player last year. Roberto scoring 41 points in a game. Lafayette was averaging around 12, 13 points before he went down due to injury. So, those guys we're expecting a lot from this year. And along with the guys like Anthony Towns, and that's who I would say is our core. But we got some young guys that I'm excited to see, what they emerge into this year as well.
So let's talk about some of the newer guys. Ajari, he was a name, I think, the first big name that kind of dropped as to who would be on this year's roster. This is going back to last season, but I know he can shoot. But from you guys' perspective, what else about Ajari is there to be excited about? I know there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really drew us to Ajari was obviously his ability to score the basketball. But he comes from a basketball family. He's been coached hard. He has a great work ethic. He kind of fits everything that Coach Stoudemire would value in a recruit. He's got a high basketball IQ. He wants to get better. He wants to work. So he's going to be a guy that can come in, and we only have 11 scholarship players this year.
Right.
So along with the aforementioned guys that Coach Luster talked about, you get Kendall Small back, and you have Kai Cabellas who sat out last year as returners in the program. But everyone's going to get their shot this year, and we as coaches have to prepare them to be ready for when their number is called.
Yeah. One thing about Ajari, man, he just know how to score the ball. Like he know how to get to his spots. He's one of those guys that you look up at the end of the game and it's like he got 20, he got 18.
You talking like spot up shooting or being able to drive?
He just have a feel and a knack to score the ball. Mid range, getting to the foul line, shooting threes. Depending on what that game calls, when it comes to scoring, he's capable of doing it. And he's one of the, I think he's like top 5 in scoring history in the state of Texas. So, I mean, state of Texas is huge. So for him to do that with the history of guys that have came out of that state over the years is a remarkable accomplishment. So he could really score the ball.
I thought a guy that fit that bill last year was Miles. Obviously, he's now with Oklahoma with his grad transfer year. But does he kind of slide into that type of because Miles could get to the line. Obviously, he was so great at doing it. It seemed like when a big bucket was needed down the stretch, you didn't have to hesitate to call Miles' number to take a big shot to have him drive. Is Ajari that type of guy? Does he fit that type of bill?
I think in a sense, but I think they go about scoring and getting the numbers a different way. I think Ajari is like a pure scorer. I think he's very skilled. He can score at all 3 levels. I'm not saying that Miles couldn't do that. I think Miles is a big-time talent. I think Miles helped us. He made big shots for us. His leadership, his toughness, his experience was great, and we needed it, and he stepped up a lot last year. But I think Ajari is young, and he'll mature into that role, but they both have the ability to really score the ball. So similarities, but a little different in how they go about scoring.
Who's going to be the true 5? Is there a true 5-man, an incoming guy that you guys are excited about?
One thing that our staff value and Coach Stoudemire values is having 5 guys on the floor that could dribble, pass, and shoot. And that's what we've been able to do throughout this recruiting process. The guy, Zach Cameron, he could dribble, pass, and shoot. He could shoot threes. He could dribble it. He could put it on the floor. He could pass. So he's a very skilled guy. He's more skilled than I know Coach Wicks knew exactly what we were getting, but he's even more skilled than I initially thought.
Really?
He could really shoot the ball. Like, he could shoot the three ball at a high rate. So I'm excited for him. And we had Amari McCray, who came from Howard Junior College. That's more of a traditional 5 that you would probably think of when you say traditional 5. And unfortunately, he tore his ACL.
Right.
First day.
First workout, right?
Yep. But the funny thing about that is he tore his ACL, and as a program, we so used to being short numbers due to the scholarship situation that we face since we've been at Pacific, where we really didn't miss a beat. Next day is like the next man up. We played with 6 scholarship guys. We played with walk-ons. I mean, we've had to manage with whatever we've had since we've been here. And
we're calling a 30-second.
Asparagus cigars right here.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, I've never had that
Sweet
one.
stuff.
No, they're good.
Primer sliders, horseradish sauce, Bruno's peppers on top.
And a burger.
Oh, this
My favorite right here,
The tri-tip.
tri-tip.
Oh man.
With barbecue sauce, chipotle aioli.
Oh my
fried
goodness.
onions.
Thank you.
Like it.
Thank you. Can we get some smaller dishes and we can split them up and?
Like this.
Crazy. There's so much.
Oh.
I don't know how anyone attacks that. How do you eat that?
You want half of this one?
What's that?
You want to cut this one?
How is that?
It's
I
good.
haven't had it.
Sorry, I ate the whole thing.
No, go for it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, go for it, because I can. Yeah, I'll have a piece.
Yeah. Just, how your wife doing, Zach? I ain't seen
good,
her in a
man.
while.
I know it's baseball season, man. It's like every single day.
She come out to the porch?
What's that?
She come out to some of the games?
Who's that, Megan? Yeah. Yeah, but she's excited for basketball season, man. That's her favorite season. Like, she gets to see me more, and the trips are better.
Do they want us to continue our conversation while we're eating? Okay.
Yeah.
So she liked basketball more than baseball?
Yeah. I think for a bunch of different reasons. But yeah.
So you're around more than doing basketball?
Like, baseball is every single day. I mean, I get like 8 days off total between April and September. Like, it's nuts. Our trips are bus trips,
That's wild.
we don't fly. So I kind of get spoiled when I'm with you guys, you know.
Be honest. Do you like baseball season better?
Put me on the spot. Like it's in some ways baseball season's easier because you get into a routine. It's a more of a routine thing. So like you go, you know, every single day you're kind of doing the same thing. Like basketball, it depends where we go. Like it's a totally different routine. We go play, you know, SIU Edwardsville. You know, like conference is kind of easier. You're in a rhythm, but the basketball, the events are better than minor league baseball. You know, if I'm being honest, like every game is huge. Basketball, you know, there are 140 baseball games.
I'm sure the travel is better.
Basketball? Not even a question.
That's tough.
So do you guys feel like the culture's changed? I know it was like the big thing, you know, when you guys came in, that was like the big task, was you guys had to really change up the culture. Would you consider it going in the right direction now?
Yeah, well, I think every coach has their own style, and every program is going to have a different philosophy. So there's many ways to skin a cat, and there's many ways to run your program, and I think our task in taking over was to implement it the way that Coach Stoudemire wanted it done. So I think, you know, where we're at as a program is we have guys that are bought into it and want to be here and understand the demands that we're going to place on them. But at the same point, we're not content with where we're at, and we got a long ways to go. Because if you're not working on your culture every day, it's gonna fall by the wayside.
How did he want it done?
You know, I think he's a guy that wants, like Coach Luster mentioned a little bit in terms of a player. He wants a guy that can pass, handle, and shoot, that can play multiple positions, that, you know, has a high IQ, that you can go out there and you can tell them something and they can grasp that concept, and you don't have to walk them through it multiple times. And then at the same point, I think the easiest way to sum it up is you got to give effort. Every day you're going to get challenged by this coaching staff. We're going to coach you hard. We're going to hold you accountable. But if you just give us your best effort in the community, on the classroom, and in the court, you know, that's all we can ask is your best effort. And if they continue to do that, then we can't be upset with them at all. And I think we're to that point. And obviously having 11 guys, 12 guys that we feel as if can play this year, we can hold guys a little bit more accountable on the court for the things that we expect them to do. Offensively, I think you'll always be fine. We were one of the most efficient teams in the conference. Now our rate of play was very slow because we only had 6, 7, 8 guys that could play. But we were very efficient with that. Defensively, it was tough. We struggled defensively at times, and I think that's one of the things that we've kind of put an emphasis on this summer is really making sure that we hold these guys accountable defensively to doing what we ask them to do. So I think we're in a good spot. Now, is it where we want to be? Absolutely not. We got a long ways to go, but I think we're in a good spot.
How hard is it to change a culture? Like, to me, culture changes are fascinating because, like, you can get guys that look the part, and you can get pieces that are talented pieces, but I mean, you get into a culture change, and that's like getting to where the real substance is. Like, that's getting nitty gritty. Like, that's the soul of your program. Like, that's a tough thing, right?
So me.
I mean, you can answer too.
Yeah,
like,
no, I got you.
I think changing culture is extremely hard. I think it's one of the hardest things to do because we're creature of habits, and guys are accustomed to doing things a certain way. So, you know, especially when you're taking over a program, you're coming in and you're implementing new everything from rules to, you know, how you hold guys accountable, how you discipline guys, and a lot of times with change, a lot of people, you know, shy away from it, don't accept it, and that's some of the things that we had to overcome when we first got here to Pacific. And the good thing now is we're at a place going into our third year where there's guys on this roster who we brought in who understand what we want and what we expect of them on a day-to-day basis, and they can help implement that culture with the new guys. And when we first got here, it was our staff trying to impose our will, so to speak, on a whole team. Now it's like you sprinkle 2 or 3 guys in, you got guys on the roster like Anthony Town, which I little trip, Roberto Gallinet, Kai Cabellas, who's been here, who can help us enforce and hold the new guys accountable to what we expect of them on a day-to-day basis. So it's getting easier as we go along, but initially I thought it was extremely hard.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. It's never an easy thing to do to take over a program, and this was my first experience in taking over a program from the start. Obviously, in my coaching career, when I took over at Sheridan College, myself and the head coach, they had a pretty good program in place. And then when I got to San Francisco, Rex was his third year, going into his third year, so I'd missed those first 2 years. So it's not easy to do. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of willpower, but it's definitely worth it once you get to the point where you feel as if you've implemented your culture. And at the end of the day, if your players don't buy into what you're preaching, it's never going to be successful. So, like Coach Lester said, we have some guys that I think are bought into this and are willing to step forward and be leaders. Because if you don't have internal leadership on your team, you're not going to be as successful as you want to be.
I want this to come out right, but like, is it less of a sales job for you guys now to go see recruits and to convince them to come to Pacific? Meaning, you know, do you have to convince them as much as you used to of, oh, you know, we're a couple years away and we want you to be part of the changing of the guard. Now the guard's kind of changed, so you can go out at least from my perspective and say, hey, we've started going places and now we're ready to get there. Is it that type of change that's kind of happened maybe in the last year?
I think I can definitely, you know, sense that change a little bit. You know, as we're out recruiting, you know, before, a lot of times when you would talk to kids about coming to Pacific, it was, you know, well, who are you guys going to have on the roster? Like, will we win? And those aren't the conversations that we're having anymore. And, you know, I think last year was a huge step. But with that being said, we only won 14 games. You know, we finished fourth in conference, which is good, but it's not where we want to be. It's not our goal as far as what we want to achieve here at Pacific. So we still got a lot of ground to make, but I do think that people outside of this community are starting to see what we're doing, and they're starting to understand that, hey, they might be on to something.
I think the biggest thing is visual evidence of progress. You know, and you can see from year 1 to year 2 we made a stride, and you'll see from year 2 to year 3 we made some strides. And like Coach Lester said, we're not where we want to be, but obviously some of those conversations, people are reaching out to us and saying, hey, I got a kid down here, you should take a look at him. I really like what you guys are doing. Saw you on ESPN, saw you on Comcast, whatever. Saw you guys play this year. Really like your style, like your guys' demeanor, like how you guys are playing, like the talent you have on your roster. So that just makes it easier. And eventually, if you get to a point, the program will sell itself, and you know, you can start sending out clips of the guys that are on your team and say, hey, listen, like this is who you're going to replace, or this is how we play. This is where we're going to make you successful. This is how you're going to fit into our program. And you don't have that in year 1 because you don't have any film. And you might not be able to play the way you want to play in year 1. And then in year 2, when you get more of the guys that you want, you can slowly implement your philosophy and and what your core values are. And then year 3, you'll keep building upon that. So it's a process. It always has been a process, always will be a process. But at the end of the day, I think we're headed in the right direction.
How's and this fascinates me to watch. Like, how has Stoudemire grown as a head coach? And this will be year 3. I'll never forget, we were at UCLA. It happened to be for Lonzo Ball's coming out party, his freshman year at UCLA. And I remember asking you, not to put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
I remember asking you before the game, I was like, what's this with this Lonzo Ball kid? You're like, you know, he's more of a facilitator.
Well, that's what his MO was. Comes out and
he came out, I think there was
30 points
opening tip, he shot like a 28-footer. You know, off the tip and drained it, and then that was that. You know,
that's what I get for watching all those Australian games down there. He's about 4-20 from the field.
More of a facilitator. I'll never
forget
that.
And dominated that thing, but he's a heck of a player.
But you know, watching Damon on the sidelines that game, I watched and I saw the moment the game officially got away, which is pretty early that night. You know, I kind of saw it in his eyes when the game got away, and it was a little bit of disappointment. Like, I don't know if he knew quite what to expect. I think maybe he thought those guys would come out with a little more fire, and that night it just wasn't there. But I feel like maybe he had to accept, I don't want to say accept losing, but he had to learn how to be kind of in a losing environment for a year or two, because he's not a guy that lost a lot. I mean, college especially, he rarely lost. I mean, he's a player coach. You know, NBA, I mean, he was just a special guy at his position that wouldn't let his team get embarrassed, you know. But he kind of had to take maybe a lump or two when it came to that, you know, and learn that side of it. Is that fair to say?
I think that every coach has growing pains, especially a first and second year head coach, or even the first time you become an assistant coach. You're learning on the fly, because there is no manual that's going to tell you how to handle every situation. And coach is an extreme competitor. He's an internalizer. He will absolutely break things down to the nth degree, and find a way. That's how he always been, and that's how he always will be. So I think he's taken tremendous strides as a young head coach in his first 2 years. One of the things that, you know, will always stick out in my mind in working for this man is, you know, the way he conducts himself on the sidelines during games, and the philosophy he has behind, you know, I'm not going to take a kid out for a bad shot. I'm going to let guys play through mistakes, and I think that's such a huge thing, because you're not going to be able to control every aspect of a basketball game, because it's ebb and flowing. It's not like a football coach where I can script the first 10 plays of a game and I know how they're going to react to it. It's not like that. You can't control every aspect, and kids are going to miss shots. Kids are going to make mistakes, but if you can instill in them the belief that you absolutely believe in them and know they're going to make the right play, I think that's invaluable, and I think that's one of Coach's greatest strengths, is that he doesn't sweat just the absolute, you know, it's not the end of the world if we turn the ball over. Now, we're one of the best in the company. We're not going to turn that thing over. We're going to hold them accountable in practice.
Right.
We're very good at taking care of that basketball, but if it does happen, he understands that throughout the course of a game, bad things are going to happen. How are we going to react to that? How are we going to move on to the next play? How are we going to put our kids in position to be successful?
I don't think I was ready for like how crazy a competitor he is. Talk about Stoudemire. I mean, it's like with everything he does, it seems like, you know, be it his own workouts. You know, you run into him at the hotel gym, and like there's no one that's dripping more than that dude. You know, like it's next level type stuff. You know.
I think kind of back to your question about how has he evolved as a coach. I think it's parallel to who he was as a player. It's almost like a mirror image. You know, when he came out of high school, he wasn't like a McDonald's All-American. He wasn't a top player in the country. He was overlooked. He kind of had a chip on his shoulder, and then, you know, he kind of grind his way into getting to Arizona. He get to Arizona. Freshman year, he comes off the bench. By the time he left, he was Damon Stoudemire. Went to the NBA lottery pick, and then he kind of took off. And I think we're at that same point at Pacific when we got here, where he started as a player. You know, we were overlooked. You know, we kind of grinding, trying to make a name for ourselves, have a chip on our shoulder. So, and I've seen him slowly get more comfortable in the role of being a head coach, and get more comfortable, you know, making those tough decisions as a head coach, because like Coach Wick says, there's no manual, and when you slide 7 inches over to that seat, you know, the crown is heavy, so to speak, and I think that crown is lighting up a little bit, you know, in year 2 versus year 1, and I can see it, you know, lighting up a little more going into year 3. I think he's a lot more comfortable, and he gets it now, you know.
How's he with the chalkboard? I mean, I'm not in the huddle. I don't know. Like, I don't know what, you know, the dynamics are of that huddle, but that always fascinates me, especially in college basketball on the fly. I mean, you got a 30-second timeout, and you got to be thinking, you know, kind of 3 steps ahead. But how is he in that huddle?
I think him being a player helps him in those situations. Him
Absolutely,
playing at a high
100%.
level, you know, he's never rattled. You know, he's made the big shots as a player. He's been at the free throw line with the game on the line, and you see those characteristics come up on the sideline as a coach. You know, when it's a timeout and there's a tough call to be made, or, you know, a play that needs to be drawn up, he's even killed. He never panicked. He's that general that he was as a point guard. He's that person he was as a player a lot of times on the sideline. So with the clipboard, I can say this: he really studies his craft. You know, he's always in the office with the clipboard, drawing up stuff. He'll call us in. What you think about this, coach? You looking at this, or I was looking at this set, and having our video coordinator Justin Hawkins pull up stuff. I mean, he really studies it, and you know, this is something he really loves to do.
When you work for NBA guys, they have such a distinct advantage versus others because they've played 82 plus games for multiple years. They've seen so much basketball. They've studied so much basketball. They're not rattled in pressure situations because they've done it their entire lives. He has a very calm demeanor about himself, and one of my old coaches, Don Meyer, would always say, you gotta show what your team needs at that point. Be the face your team needs at that point. And I think in a lot of different situations, Coach has done a great job at that. He'll come into the huddle and be like, we're all right, fellas. We're good. We're good. And he can take a snapshot of how a defense has played or a team has played a certain type of play and come up with a slight variation of that play that maybe we've never practiced or never put in, but he can draw it up like that because he knows, okay, well, if they're going to do this on this screen, we're going to be able to set a back screen and get a slip to the rim. And now it's up to our guys to go out there and execute it. But he's
playing chess.
Oh, he's definitely chess.
He does a phenomenal job. He does a great job.
And I think him playing also, you know, a lot of people say they are players coach, but I think he truly is a players coach. And I think a lot of that is because he played the game, and he played the game at a high level. So, like Coach Wicks mentioned, he rarely takes a guy off for taking a bad shot. You know, that's something he doesn't want to do. Why? Because he played. He was a scorer. He took bad shots at times. And he hated when coaches would yank him out for taking a bad shot. So, as a coach, he doesn't do that. So, I think he really is a player's coach in every sense of the word. And I think a lot of that comes from being a player. He played this game. It's a coach who's coaching it from a player's perspective.
I don't want to look back too much. Like, it's all about looking forward. But in this instance, like, what did you guys take away from the way last season finished? And it's kind of a multifaceted question, right? Because last season didn't finish on the greatest of notes. There were a couple of tough losses in there. At the same time, you guys were down to what, 6-7 bodies? It was pretty remarkable. I think even in the final game in the tournament, what your guys were able to do to lose by 1 point in overtime to USF. I mean, literally gave everything they had to try and get that game, and it was just a point short, you know. But what did you guys take away from that, as you know, as coaches, as it pertains to the program?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that, you know, as a player in our program, you can't take anything for granted. I mean, we were sitting at 9-6. We were playing Gonzaga at home. I believe we might have been, you know, 7-5 at that time or something. And, we lose to Gonzaga. Lafayette Dorsey goes down. We find out that he's out for the year. We go the following Saturday. We beat Portland. Miles Reynolds hits the last second shot. We beat Portland at home. The following Thursday, we go down to San Diego with only 6 scholarship guys, and we go down and beat San Diego at San Diego, and we're sitting at 9-6 coming home to play Santa Clara. And at that point, you know, it wears on guys when throughout the course of a season we only had 8 scholarship guys to begin with. Fatigue hit them, so we put an emphasis on, you know, conditioning. You got to be conditioned all year round. Like, you don't know when it's going to hit, and our guys kind of hit the wall, but there's no excuse for them. We didn't make the plays we needed to make in the Santa Clara game. We didn't get the stops we needed to get. At the same point, you have San Francisco home on Saturday, and we stress coming out and getting a good start, and once again we're down 10 right away to start the game. And come back and you're up 13 at LMU, and you're feeling good at halftime, and you take your foot off the gas, and LMU is going to fight and claw and scrape. That's who they are. That's in their DNA, and they come back and beat us. So you drop your last 3 regular season games, which 2 of them are at home and 1's on the road, and then you go in, and I've watched all those games. I know Coach Lesser's watched all those games. I know Coach Perry and Coach Stoudemire have watched all those games over and over and over this summer to try and learn how we can be better as coaches. And there's a couple plays in particular in that USF game that our guys, they played their hearts out. They played hard.
Oh, it was an inspiring effort.
Yeah,
I mean,
but then there's just a few plays where, you know, a guy drives and kicks it to a non-shooter, and instead of our guys stunting at him, he maybe takes him, and then they kick it one more and make the right play, and there's a 3-point shooter in the corner, and he knocks it down, and that puts us down 5 in the overtime. Those are all little things that we got to get better as a program if we want to take the steps we want to take. But definitely not the way we wanted it to end, but we were proud of the way our guys fought, only having those 6 guys and the 2 walk-ons.
Did you watch the NBA playoffs this year?
Yeah, what I could of it between baseball.
Did you watch the series with the Cavs and the Celtics.
Yes,
the Celtics.
I'm a Celtics fan.
Did you see the game when LeBron at the end, they asked him a question at the podium, and he ran off the whole second half? They said, we lost the game here when so-and-so missed the layup, and after that, Celtics went on 6-0 run.
Yep.
He named every possession, who had the ball. My man, Coach Wicks, just did that for 4 games, the whole end of last season. Everybody praised LeBron for that. My man just did 6 games. That's a photographic memory right there. I mean, he told you our record. He told you, I mean.
Yeah, well,
that was impressive.
It's ingrained.
But when you take losses that hard, you know, like I'm not surprised. I mean, you guys, here's the thing that amazes me about what you guys do, is you are so entrenched in the details of everything. I mean, you know, people barely scratch the surface with what they see, the work that you guys put in. So for me, it doesn't surprise me that you would remember every little thing about that, because I mean, that's literally your life goes into those games.
Yep, and those details can be the difference between a win and a loss.
Yeah, and to come so painfully close. I mean, I'll never forget breakfast the next day in Vegas. It was just silent. Like, it was, you know, A, the guys had nothing left to give, but B, there was just that disappointment, which I think speaks to the culture change, because I think you go back 2 years ago, I don't want to say guys would be okay with losing those games, but guys weren't okay with losing this year. To me, I sensed that, and that's one thing. I remember the last practice of Damon's first season. He talked to the guys. He goes, "Fellas, you guys are okay with losing. You accept it, and you can't accept losing anymore." And it was not accepted at the end of last year. I sensed that.
Yep.
It's one of the things we're trying to do is let these guys know that there's going to be times of adversity through your life, and use basketball obviously as a teaching tool to help them become, you know, the wins and losses are great. Obviously we want to win a lot of games, we want to be successful here, but I think as coaches where you really feel a lot of joy is when you see those guys walk across the stage and graduate, and you see their parents crying and hugging and being so happy, and their grandma's there, and then you see them get to fulfill a dream of playing professional basketball, and then be productive members of society after their basketball career is over. And that's why you're in the coaching game. You'll never win enough games to be happy, and you'll always lose way more than you think you should. So it's got to be about more than the wins and losses, and you know, trying to use basketball as a life lessons, you know, building those life lessons and teaching them that it's not going to be easy. I spoke to a kid the other day that, you know, showed up late to a workout, and I said, listen, like, things are going to happen, you know, but you still got to get your kid to school. You still got to show up in time to work, and you got to communicate. If you don't communicate with your boss and you show up late to work, they're just going to be like, well, this guy doesn't care. They're going to fire you. So that's what we're in it for. We love what we do. We're obviously passionate about it, and we couldn't be happier being here at the University of Pacific. We're excited about this year for sure.
So what about this year? Like, what's going to be the I guess you don't know the identity until the team takes the floor, but maybe a little bit about the makeup of the team and how it's constructed. Either one of you guys can take it.
You got a coach?
I would say the makeup of this team, I think one of the things that make Coach Stoudemire a really good coach is he's able to impose his personality, his values on a team. And I think the makeup of this team will be the makeup of Coach Stoudemire. I think Coach Stoudemire is a guy who was a born underdog. I think he has a chip on his shoulder. I think every day he shows up with a worker's mentality and leave everything he has, whether it's in the office working or on the floor when he was playing. And I think that's going to be the makeup of our team. I think we're going to have a chip on our shoulder. I think we're going to come out and we're going to play extremely hard every single possession. And I think we're going to get what we earn. I don't know what that's going to be, but we're going to put in the work to earn whatever we get this year.
I'd agree. I think you know, our guys understand what's going to be required of them, and as coaches, we're going to do everything we can to put them in a position to be successful. And at the end of the day, the players got to go out there and make a play, and they got to. We can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves. So once we get this ball rolling, we're excited about it. We got a lot of moving parts, a lot of pieces that can play different positions, and it should be a fun year.
Yeah. One thing that last year that kind of made me smile, or I was excited about, or you know, when we win games, it started off being when we win games on the road. Coach Perry come in and Coach Perry do a dance. And Coach Perry, you think Coach Perry out the loop, you know, because he been doing it for a long time. You know, he been in the business, but he doing all the new dances the kids are doing now.
Really?
You know what I mean? So the kids our team going crazy. You know, Coach Perry doing his dances, and we got to a point in conference where we won a game, and Big Nam and a couple guys like, we're not celebrating. We're not celebrating no more after wins. So I think that was a huge step within our program. It kind of shows the makeup of this team and the character of some of the guys on this team. We have guys on this team who they expect to win. We went down to Arizona State and it was over fast, but they went into that game expecting to win. And they didn't go in that game feeling inferior or feeling like they didn't have a chance to win. And that's a good place to be at as a program.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like speaking of winning, you're starting to win some of the recruiting battles now? You're at the point where you can, say that, if Pacific is in the mix, they're legitimately in the mix for guys that you want to get. I thought this year maybe that rang true from a distance, me watching from a distance more than anything. It's like, okay.
I will say this man is a beast. He is a pit bull in the recruiting game.
That's what I hear.
He is one of the best I've ever seen. And he does a phenomenal job. And Coach Stoudemire does a great job of being that head coach and explaining his vision for those recruits. And I know Coach Perry and myself, we throw out everything we got. And when we recruit kids, we're going to recruit them hard. And we're not going to lie to them, though. We're going to tell them exactly how we see them and exactly what we expect from them. Because at the end of the day, if they get to campus and they expect something different because we've told them something different, our relationship is ruined from the start. And we're big into relationships here. That, this is what I told you in the recruitment process. This is what we told you. This is exactly what you signed up for. And that's one of the things that we do. But I know, I've learned a lot from watching Coach Luster on the recruiting trail, and just his work ethic, his diligence, his attention to detail, his ability to foster relationships. And he's done a great job. And some people may be like he's young, whatever. He's a rising star in this business. He's a heck of a coach, and he's got a very bright future. So I've been honored to be able to work alongside him and see him do it, and it's re-energized me at times to go out there and beat the streets and try.
You're the recruiting coordinator, right? So it just speaks to your ability to.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but at the same point, you got to have guys that are willing to go out there and work, and it's tough as a coach because sometimes you got to put your family second because you're out traveling a lot, you're on the phone a lot, and your wives, your girlfriends are going to be like, you're always on the phone. But that's part of the profession. But I want to give a shout out to the wives and the girlfriends. give a shout out. They do a phenomenal job of putting up with all of us and letting us do something we're passionate about. But I think in the recruiting, it's people will see how real we are, and they appreciate that.
I guess to close it, like what do you? I'll start with you. What are your expectations coming into this season?
I'm a firm believer in accolades, conference championships, league championships, making NCAA tournament, individual accolades. I believe they're won in off season. And I believe that we're working extremely hard as a team. I feel like we're working extremely hard as a staff. And I feel like we're going to get what we've earned this summer. And I don't know what that equates to as far as wins and losses, but I do think our guys have done a good job in putting themselves in position to have a successful year this season. And like I said, I don't know what that will equate to, but I like our chances because I like what we've done in the off season as far as putting in the time and the work.
Yeah, we don't fear anyone on our schedule. Obviously, we got to go into games with the right mindset. We have very talented players. We believe in every single one of our guys on our roster, and that's why we brought them here. At the same point, we can't go into games and make stupid mistakes and miss defensive assignments. If we're disciplined enough to take care of what we can control, we're going to win a lot of basketball games. It's going to be a really fun year. At the same point, we know the league is going to be a bear. A lot of teams got a lot of guys coming back, including us. So we're looking forward to it. But like I said, the discipline, that's where we'll take another step in this program. If we can have the attention to detail and the discipline to do the right thing, we'll be all right.
Thanks for lunch, fellas.
Zach, appreciate it.
I think Midgley's is awesome, by the way. The asparagus phenomenal with
Yeah,
the chili
asparagus
sauce.
cigars. Those were really
Asparagus
good.
cigars.
Prime
We couldn't
rib.
even finish the prime rib, but it's got onion strings and barbecue sauce. I'm actually gonna have. I'm waiting till we get off so I can, have one of those. And
dig
then
to
it.
we're all about to dig into this bad boy.
My
Everybody
man,
that came here
Shakir
today.
Evans about to kill that
Yeah,
burger.
we
He's
gotta-
been eyeballing it the whole
we gotta
time.
have about 15 people. We're gonna bring in the reserves. We got 15 people gonna share this thing here.
Man.
That's a pregame meal right there.
All right, fellas.
Appreciate it,
Thank you,
Zach.
guys.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.